Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. And thank you for joining us here. The name of today's session is Charting the Path Ahead, Preparing the Industry for Modern Airline Retailing. Hi, I'm Judy Howard, Manager of Customer Experience and Training here at ARC, and I'll be your host today. I'd like to introduce our presenters. With us today is Paige Blunt, Senior Manager, Direct Connect and One Order, Sarah Boyd, Principal, Airline Retailing Solutions, and Judy Brent, Product Owner, Direct Connect, ArcCheck API, and CTAC. But before I hand it over to Paige to start today's presentation, I just want to go over a few housekeeping items. This is an interactive presentation. We have our guest presenters here to ask any questions you like. Please do that intermittently throughout this presentation, and you can do that by typing in your questions in the questions box on your screen. We'll try to get to as many questions as we can. For those that we don't get answered, we will go offline and we will work with you individually. Also, this presentation is recorded, so not to worry. You'll receive the recording link in a follow-up email. Otherwise, if you don't have it and you want to visit it at any time without looking for your email, you can go to arccorp.com on-demand webinars, and this should be posted in the next few days. Okay, thank you so much. And Paige, I'm going to kick it over to you to get started. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much, Judy. Hello, everyone, and thanks so much for being here today. Sarah and I are really excited to talk about the future of airline retailing, and we'll dive into offers and orders and share what this looks like from the ARC point of view. Now, as you can see, I'm kind of in and out on my camera, so just to make it not so quite gruesome as it is, I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera, but I wanted to say hello. All right. We're going to start out here with offers, and we're going to kind of go back a little ways to kind of how the industry moved into coming into the offer. So in the early days of commercial aviation, airline tickets were handwritten or typewritten documents issued by travel agencies or airline offices. And these paper tickets served as the passenger's proof of payment and travel itinerary, and each segment of the journey had to be carefully filled out and manually confirmed with the airline. The process was very slow, error-prone, and required a great deal of coordination, especially when it was a multi-leg travel. Reservations were managed through physical ledgers and phone calls, with agents spending considerable time really confirming seat availability, fares, the flight schedules, all of those things. And this manual approach not only limited the speed and scalability of the industry, but it also made accurate real-time information sharing virtually impossible. As the demand for air travel grew, so did the need for more efficient, standardized systems. The introduction of the central reservation system in the 1960s, pioneered by airlines like Sabre with its, like American Airlines with its Sabre system, really marked a major shift. And these computerized systems allowed agents to check availability, book flights, and issue tickets electronically. So when the CRSs were helpful with their operational communication protocols for things like flight scheduling, load information, and booking confirmations between airlines and CRSs, there was still this gap in communication. Each of the CRSs, there was Sabre and Apollo and Amadeus and Galileo and maybe others, had their own internal language and message structure. Travel agents really had to learn specific coded commands to book a seat or make a reservation. The syntax was inefficient and inconsistent across systems. And the lack of standardization across these systems is what really drove the industry toward adopting what's called EDIFACT in the 1980s and 90s. It's a universal structured data format that could be used reliably across different carriers, CRSs, and regions. As we approach the 2010s and forward, the airline.com websites had been enhanced and were able to display graphics showing the pitch of the seat, the meal, and offering bundled products that they had that went along with the fare. But the so-called green screens, as we all know what they used to be, or even the more advanced GDS kind of point and click models, could not offer this type of visibility and capability. The travel sector really needed to align with contemporary digital retail practices. The primary expectation was that the search and booking processes should be as straightforward as any other online purchase. So new distribution capability, or NDC, the nice acronym that it is, emerged from this pressing necessity. And to address this, NDC introduced basically a modern XML-based standard that enabled the airlines to distribute content directly to travel sellers in a way that mirrored their own websites. This means that travel agencies could now access real-time fares, product details, rich media like photos of the seat or a meal, and personalized offers directed from the airline system. NDC's premier advantage really is its efficient retail process, and it's distilled into 3 steps: shop, order, and pay. So what does this really do for us in the industry? It offers customers an omni-channel experience. Really, the airlines wanted to have a flexible capability to show you their offers in your phone, in your app, in the computer, as well as the same things that you can see on their .com. They really also wanted to be able to be a retailing organization, like any normal online portal that you see today. And they wanted to be able to have some control over that content, how their products were displayed, they were sold. And so there was a really consistent customer experience for the traveler, the agent, anyone. So what is a direct connection? A direct connection really is just the way that an agent is going to connect with the airline. As you see here, we can have direct connections via the aggregator or a GDS. We'll call them a technology provider, and that's usually using an API. And then there's a direct connection to the agency that has a portal, or it still could be an API, depending on how the airline has, created their product. And then there can be a direct connect to the traveler via a website, and there could be an OBT that sits in there somewhere as well. So where are the benefits? Let's talk about how we're going to really make this valuable for people. Really, ARC's product allows simplified reporting and reconciliation. You're using the same process that you use today with it in the interactive agent reporting tool that ARC hosts. You have your GDS Edifact transactions there, and you also have all of your NDC transactions in the same space, and you have the ability to utilize all of those tools that we provide you today, meaning with DRS as well as IAR, and then of course, the BOSS file. And the ability to do that research in our system with the DRS, as I said, you can still see all of these direct connect transactions. The NDC transactions are there. You see them in the same way. We don't show them any differently. And also, we do actually move all of the data that we receive, whether it's GDS or whether it's NDC, we do move that into all of our data products so that you have a seamless visibility to all of your transactions, not just, say, GDS. So what are the features really of Direct Connect? There are differences. We're able to actually give customization to the airline to decide how they want to display the transactions within our system. They can give us an airline form code or ticket stock, or they can give us ARC neutral stock. ARC neutral stock is today what you see on your GDS transactions. Those are called neutral tickets. And depending on how the airline decides to roll out their product, they have a choice. They can do either. There is an airline direct indicator in IAR so that the agent can see whether or not the transaction came in with NDC with an airline form code, or if it came in a neutral form code. And then we also have the drop-down box within IAR that says which airline sent that to us. Or did it come from Excelia? And then you can look at those specific transactions too. Then we also show that system provider code in that drop down that I talked about, as well as we load these transactions into IAR in the same process as we do today with our GDS. If you issued it today, you can load them tomorrow. There are some very fringe cases where the airline is not quite there yet, and it's based on a provider that they have chosen. But the majority of transactions we are getting next day. I just certainly can't say all. Now, error management is different in the Direct Connect world and IAR. Airlines that utilize an airline ticket stock for their transactions for NDC have the ability to lock down the transaction. There are no manual changes within IAR. You can't do a manual refund with an IAR. You can't add your ticket in, and you can't actually change like a form of payment or something like that. But there are some things that you are still able to do depending on if the airline has chosen to allow you to say add in a commission. Airlines have the choice between commission, tour code, ticket designator, waiver, and certificate that they can choose to open for the agency to append information to. And there are some lockdown variances that occur within our system, whether or not you are able to do any of those items that I just talked about. There could be an airline that allows all 5. There could be an airline that doesn't allow any of those. So it's really the airline's discretion. And then voids. Voids are still possible, obviously, within NDC, as long as we receive the sale and the void, which we do now for all of our airlines. You will be able to see those voids in the actual IAR. So you can say, I have the sale, I see the void, and that matches. However, there are some other transactions that there are some differences in what we receive, and it depends on how we receive the transaction. If it comes into us on a particular file that some airlines have chosen to use, you see your exchanges in a little bit different way because they come in to us via the IATA RET format. And, we're 2 different companies. We have different protocols on our data. And so sometimes you'll see an exchange that's an even exchange that comes in and the new ticket value is valued at 0. Sometimes it's just the value of the ad collect. So these are some differences that you'll see between different kinds of transactions within NEC. We really offer a suite of services with the Direct Connect product for NDC. We offer a transaction API now. We have for over a year. And so that allows real-time capability to bring transactions to ARC. However, we must still batch our transactions overnight. So it will still be ticket issued today. As long as I have it tonight, I will be able to display it to the agency tomorrow. And our ARC Check API is a feature that we've had for a little while now, over a year. And what we're really giving the ability for the NDC carriers is to, one, be able to see whether or not the agency is ARC accredited, whether the agency is accredited with the airline themselves. And it tells them what kind of office type that the agency has. Is it a branch or a VTC, whatever it might be? Obviously, because VTCs can't ticket. This has really been a great feature in order to reduce fraud. And I know there's not been a lot of fraud in NDC, but as I'm sure you all are aware, the fraudsters kind of look at the new things that are coming up and find ways to try to get into that path. And so we want to be as sure as we are risk averse as possible that we can be, and the ARC Check API is a great way to do that. So currently, we have 38 Direct Connect airline participants, as you can see here. These are all very well-known airlines, probably, and we have many that are actually still in our kind of queue, working through the testing process, and hope to be onboarded, some of them later this year, some of them next year. Our Direct Connect website, I'm hoping that you have been able to go out to that site. But we encourage you to do so to see which airlines are allowing what kinds of features, what capability the airline is giving the agency within our IAR system, as well as it can give you some other information about the forms of payment that the airline is accepting. those types of things. And then we also have the NDC Advancement Working Group. I don't know if you are aware of this, but we started this back in 2023, really trying to provide a forum for all of our stakeholders, because we had been hearing that there was a lack of adoption based on some servicing issues, things that were happening. And really what we were looking to do is to find some commonality, try to help normalize the NDC process with a set of best practices that we put out. So we brought in agencies, and that includes OTAs, it includes consolidators, and it includes TMCs. It also includes obviously our airlines and our travel technology partners, including the GDS aggregator sides of the house, as well as the standalone aggregators that are out there too. We've put in a lot of work. We released 20 best practices at the end of last year in 2024. And in June, we actually added 2 more best practices to the list that was just published at the end of June. And we continue to keep working. We will be definitely having another release by the end of the year as this group meets. I think one of the key things here is that it's such a great collaborative effort between all of the stakeholders. And we really try to talk about the issues that are really the agents and airlines and travel technology providers are receiving, so that we can, excuse me, put some insight into how to really help expedite and advance NDC within the community. So here's something that's new, going to be coming, is a new agency type for Direct Connect. But you kind of might be asking, well, why do you need a new agency type for this? Well, we've been asked for it. And really, airlines want to be able to offer this particular NDC content to agents without having a full accreditation, because it will not be for cash sales. It will only be for credit card sales. And that's going to allow us to remove some of the barriers, things like the financial instrument and the cost for a new agent. So I think there are some great benefits to having this. We will do like I say, a lighter accreditation, but I think that there will be some great benefit to this also. And as well, this should be coming out, I believe, at the first quarter of 26. Okay. So now I'm going to turn it over to Sarah to talk about orders.
Awesome. Thank you, Paige. I'm Sarah Boyd. I'm Principal Airline Retailing Solutions here at ARC. And I'm going to talk about, now that you've got NDC and you have sold your order, and it's fulfilled with a ticket, what's really next for the industry and where we're going. And that is order management and using native orders to actually fulfill and settle the actual flight and all of the ancillary purchases along with that. So when we're on the industry a lot and we're talking to airlines and agencies and technology providers, and we've sort of put together a cumulative view of where we think that airlines are going in the future for retailing. What we have heard is that retailing, they want to offer a greater variety of products and services. So they want to provide customers with consistent offerings across all channels. So they want to be able to offer new products and services, not just on their own website, but also in the agency channel as well, and across different third-party channels. And so they need the technology in order to be able to do that. They want to leverage personalization. We've heard a lot about data mining and a lot about AI. So they want to use all of that data to personalize and build a better customer experience, drive loyalty, and that, of course, they hope to increase cart value, drive revenue. One of the biggest asks we have heard is the ability to work across JV or with partners, Airline. And I think there is difficulty with NDC today and the ability to actually offer like seating products on a JV partner. And they want to be able to do that in order to be able to sell more seating products. And then making it easier for travelers to receive servicing in their channel of choice. So regardless of where you buy your ticket, you should be able to service it, and you should be able to go back and forth between channels, because customers today are working in an omni-channel environment. It doesn't make sense to a customer why, if they buy it with an agency, they go to the airline's app to make a change, why they can't then go back to their agent to continue servicing in the future. So they want to be able to enable that omni-channel servicing experience. So airlines and their partners today in our current legacy model, there's a lot of transparency around all of the data that is there. They know how much things cost because all of those things are published. They can see through ARC's data products what was actually sold and how they compare to other airlines, and agencies can see how they compare to other agencies. So we want to have that same transparency in the future, and we're committed to that.
Sarah, on that slide you referenced across JV. Could you just describe or give the definition of what JV is?
Absolutely. Sorry. Thank you. This is an industry with a lot of acronyms. JV stands for joint venture. So take something like United Airlines and Lufthansa Group. They have a joint venture company that actually they share revenue. I'm not sure of the exact specifics, but on their over-water flights, they cooperate on pricing and they share revenue on those flights via a joint venture.
And one more question came in, Sarah. When you reference omni-channel,
yes.
The question is, do you mean neutral ticket stock?
I mean that the world is going to a place where the difference between airline ticket stock and neutral ticket stock really, there's not a lot of meaning in that anymore. You'll see in orders, we're getting rid of ticket stock, and everything will have an order number and a clearance number. There's not going to be a difference between neutral and airline ticket stock. Today there is, obviously, and that causes some issues with omni-channel servicing. Oh golly, lots of questions. Okay. Should I keep going, Judy?
The other question is, are all carriers using neutral ticket stock or NDC?
I'll let Paige answer that question. I believe the answer is no, it is split, but Paige.
It is, yeah, it is. Thank you, Sarah. No, not all carriers are using neutral stock today. Some carriers are using their airline stock. And so, we can take in their airline stock and process and settle that just as we do today with the neutral stock. I think in the omni-channel, what the hope and the overall spirit of omni-channel really is to be able to issue a ticket by a travel agent. Maybe your customer, for whatever reason, is at the airport and they need to make a change, and they do, and the airline reissues the ticket, but that the agent can then still get into that transaction, can still service that transaction. They can actually make another change if that's necessary. That's the hope of omni-channel. That is the dream of omni-channel, truly, because the agent needs to be able to follow the customer no matter what's happened with the ticket. And so to answer the question you originally asked, neutral stock, there are some. Any airline that is utilizing Excelia today is coming in with neutral ticket stock. Anyone who is coming directly to us is using airline ticket stock. Correct. This is only for NDC transactions, not GDS, only NDC transactions. Yes. Okay, sir.
All right, we'll keep going. Paige, you can go to the next slide. All right. So I'm going to talk about order management. And so we talked about NDC, and everything with NDC is still settled delivered, fulfilled, accounting is all done on tickets. But we are going to a world eventually. It's a long duration. It's going to take us a long time to get there. But we are going to a world where we're going to get rid of the tickets completely. And we're going to be able to settle. We're going to be able to deliver. And when I mean deliver, I'm talking about things like boarding the airplane, assigning seats, making sure, letting the person into the lounge, all of those things that are like operational processes are all going to be handled by order. And then accounting processes are also going to be handled by order without the use of a ticket or an EMD in the middle of that process. And so I'm going to compare the ticket world and the order world. So in the ticket world, I am flying tomorrow. I'm going to have a flight. I'm going to have a seat. I'm getting an extra legroom seat. I need to check a bag. I want an upgraded meal on board the airplane, and also I have to get some work done. So I'm going to purchase Wi-Fi on board. And so you guys know this as well as we do, that for the flight, you're going to have a ticket number, and you're going to have an airline PNR. If they're booking through an agency, additionally, you're going to have the agency PNR on top of that. So that flight costs, let's say, $600. Separately, if the passenger is going to buy that seat product via NDC through the agent or something, that seating product is going to be sold on an EMD. So that's a separate number that's going to be there and need to be reconciled. So let's say that's $100. Then let's say they check a bag. That is another number. It's either going to be an EMD, or if they do it at the airport, it's going to be on a proprietary order number or a proprietary document with the carrier at the kiosk at the airport. It's another number that gets added, and another payment. They buy the upgraded meal on board. Likely they did that maybe online, or they did it via the handheld point of sale system. They swipe their credit card on board. That's going to have a separate order number that is a proprietary of that point of sale system. And the same thing with Wi-Fi. There's a couple of different vendors that do onboard Wi-Fi. They usually have a white labeled website with their own point of sale there. They give you your own order number and takes your money, your credit card or your miles or whatever you're going to use to pay. So you've got 5 different payments for this item, for all of these items at different points of time. And it is incredibly difficult to match up, to understand total cart value. How much did this passenger actually spend to get from point A to point B? It's difficult if there is an issue with their seat. Who do you call? Do you call the agent? Do you call the airline? If there is a meal, like how do I get a refund for that if the meal wasn't very good? So there's a ton of servicing issues that go along with this. If you've ever had a flight change and had your ticket and your PNR get out of sync, and you show up at the airport and you are not ready to fly and you can't get checked in, you understand the real pain that having this many numbers and how they can all get out of sync can cause to travelers. And so we are moving to a system as an industry that is based on orders. For NDC, we've already seen orders in shopping. Every time you book an NDC ticket, it comes with an order number. So orders aren't new. This structure isn't new. But what is new for order management is we've now taken it past ticketing, and we have taken it to all of the downline processes. So an order is fundamentally, it's a bucket. It's a container. It is a standard sort of retail term and way of doing things. So you go online to your retail website of choice and you are buying 3 things, and you're buying 1, 2, 3 items. Each of those items has a price attached to it. So each of those is an order item. So an order item is like an item that has a price. one of those items happens to be a 12-pack of socks. Each of those socks underneath is the service item. So you can't, there's no individual price for the sock. It's a 12-pack. You have to buy all of it together. It's a bundle. So each of those socks is a service item. The order item is the pack of socks that has a price that you can buy. So in an airline example, you have order item number 1. At first, at the agent, you're going to buy a flight, a seat, and a bag. And that's going to come at a bundle price of, let's say, $750. Then you have order item number 2, the meal. You're going to swipe on board, and it's going to be appended to your order. And then finally, you have the Wi-Fi. That is also going to be appended to your order. So you've made 3 different payments, in this case, 3 different order items, but all 5 of those service items. But they're all connected. The data flows throughout the entire thing. I see a bunch of questions came in. Judy, do you want to stop for questions?
Sure. One question is, why are meals and Wi-Fi included in this if the agencies do not get involved? And can this be done in the GDS using NDC already today?
So that's a great question. So we talked about a little bit about omni-channel, and Paige did a really great explanation of like, hey, you can book in one channel, service in another, and then go back and service again. So part of what we are saying is make the original booking at the agent, but that's not the entirety necessarily of everything they're buying. So if they're buying the meal and the Wi-Fi later on board, it's still part of their total cart. They may be expensing those things with their company, and it would be great to be able to aggregate all of that data together for a corporate sales contract and have an understanding of that. When the traveler goes on the website and pulls up all of how much they spent on that entire flight, to be able to provide the traveler all of that information in one place instead of having to go to multiple different spots. So although the agent isn't involved in selling that, it's still all there for all the necessary stakeholders to see. That doesn't mean necessarily that, I know there's privacy concerns, like it's not my company's business that I bought a drink on board the plane. Just because the technology exists doesn't mean that there's not going to be privacy things layered on to prevent where a customer might be able to choose whether or not to share certain expenses or not. Keep going. All right, you can go to the next.
Go ahead.
Paige, can you go to the next page? All right. So all of this sounds pretty complicated, I realize. So why are we doing it? Why is the industry going in this direction? The hope is that we actually simplify the ecosystem. That's the goal, is actually make things easier. I realize in the short run, we're adding more complexity by having to manage 2 or 3 systems and way of doing business at once, but in the long run, we're going to simplify things. So hopefully the goal is to simplify how things are delivered, how service happens, how accounting happens. So we are leveraging industry standard APIs. NDC is industry standard APIs. The one order and the settlement with orders are industry standard APIs. The goal is that if you do it as an industry together, that there is fewer connections. Instead of every airline having to connect with every agency, that if we all do it as an industry standard, then there is less back and forth one-on-one connections, and that it makes it easier on everybody. So ARC for settlement, we are looking at how do we standardize all of the settlement APIs, and how do we use an industry standard accounting process in our settlement experience. Travelers benefit from a simplified customer experience. Hopefully the data flows better and works better and things stay in sync and there's less discrepancies. And so you're going to get a lot fewer issues in servicing, and travelers should benefit from that. And then airlines and their partners benefit from improved traveler experiences, reduced costs, and operational efficiencies. Hopefully it gets rid of a lot of the manual labor behind the scenes that a lot of airlines and agencies use to run things. And we can automate a lot more things. All right, Paige, next slide. Okay, so what is ARC doing about orders? Thus far, I've talked about where the industry is going. So I'm going to talk now about how ARC is approaching orders themselves. So we are building a system, a platform from the ground up. We have had our legacy settlement platform has existed in the 40 years that ARC has been in business. We run NDC transactions through it, and we run EDIFACT transactions through it, but all of those are ticketing transactions. When we started with orders, we decided that our current platform was not really fit for purpose for orders, and we needed to start from the ground up. So our new platform is designed to take data in, and today it is API based, it's real time, and it's order based transactions. So we're not getting ticketing information in from carriers anymore like we do in NDC. We are going to get order data in, and it's going to be streamed in. So instead of there being a batch file that an airline sends us, every time they create an order and agree to pay, then the transaction gets sent off to ARC via an API message. We're going to take that data in, and in real time, we're going to settle it. And what we mean by this is we're going to take it in, we're going to process it, we're going to make sure that it's correct, we're going to make sure that it meets our standards, and then we're going to put it into sort of a pending state where it waits for money movement. It doesn't mean that we're going to move the money immediately. We're planning for the first iteration to move the money on the same schedule that we always have, but it does mean that the processing is done immediately, and we can tell you if there's a problem with that transaction immediately. And that very much differs from today, because today we get in batch files overnight and we process them in bulk, and then we throw them in error or we reject those transactions, and then you get all of them at one time, once a day. This is different. Every transaction that comes in, it can go from coming in to showing up in our data products within a matter of minutes. And that's very different from today. Integration. I mentioned our data products. We have a goal for all of this orders data that it shows up in all of our settlement services and products. And it also filters all the way down to our competitive data products. So both airlines and agencies subscribe to data products that use our ASP data, and we want to make sure that this data filters all the way down to those products. And then finally, flexible data delivery options. Today, if you've ever wanted to change to the boss file or something, you know it is very, very complicated to get any changes into our flat file formats or even our GUIs. And so the thought process is, in the future, we will be able, the flexibility, we can design custom data products or custom views of all of these things for customers that better fit their needs. All right, Paige, you can go to the next one.
Sarah, if we could pause just for a few questions. One question is, when an airline migrates from legacy tickets to orders, how will the old data be displayed in the new system?
The old data meaning ticket data, I'm assuming. So that's a great question. So we're going to continue to offer both legacy settlement, like with tickets and NDC for the foreseeable future, and orders for the foreseeable future. So if something comes in via ticket, it's going to be in legacy settlement. You're going to be able to see it in IAR. It's going to go through the standard processes that you have seen for years and years and years. Nothing will change to tickets. But if they start sending some orders in, they could send some transactions in tickets and some transactions in orders. The ones that they send in orders are going to show up in this new system. And right now it's API messages. We are planning on building out some reporting in the future. And so we will work to probably try to integrate all of those transactions to have comprehensive reporting in the future.
All right. Another question. The only things being reported to the agency would be sales the agency made, and they're asking if that's a correct statement.
Yes,
and then,
that is a correct statement.
Okay, and then they want to understand the extra sales can be made directly with the airline, but for tax purposes, the agency do not report those. So they just want to clarify that with like the example of meals, for example, that the
Correct.
agency did not sell are not being reported via ARC.
Yeah, yes. So you want to go back to the order slide page for me so I can talk to that specifically, the one with tickets versus orders. So you have you have the first sale. That's go back one more. Yeah. The first sale for the bundle of the flight, the baggage, and the seat. One more than that. Sorry. No, going the wrong way. That's okay. I'm just going to keep talking. So you have the flight, the bag, and the seat. And that was $750. So that would be the first thing. And the airline would send us a message. And the airline would send us a message that says, Agency XYZ owes us $750 for this bundle that they bought. And here's how much they owe us. And then ARC is going to go and ask for all of the specifics on what order items were there, what service items were there. So we have all of the data to get prices, commissions, fees, all of the data that you guys, the agencies are used to seeing. But they're going to say, pay us $750. And so ARC is going to settle just the $750 in that case. If later on the customer buys a meal and Wi-Fi directly with the carrier, they might tell ARC that that was sold, but they will note, and the airline sends us this data, they will note that that was sold directly. So you could have part of an order that was sold by the agent and part of the order that is sold directly by the carrier, and that will be noted. And so, yes, of course, you're not financially responsible for the pieces that you did not actively sell.
An additional question regarding being able to see transactions in minutes versus time each day. Will that mean the agency has to check ARC more than once a day for errors?
Yes. So, so I mentioned, I know I have a whole slide on what ARC is doing for R1. So R1 is our first release. What we are building is all real time. At this point in time, what we are building is all real time and API based. So every time a transaction comes in, ARC's going to process it, and we're going to notify the agency immediately via an API message that a transaction was sold. At that point in time, because we don't have a user experience, there is no IAR for orders at the moment. These transactions aren't going to be in IAR. So because of that, the agency is going to have to be able to accept API messages in order to do this, or they're going to have to work with a technology vendor, an aggregator, or a GDS who can accept those on your behalf and help display them to you. You're going to be able to take those in, check them for accuracy, and then if there's a problem, you can cancel them immediately. I can go into more details about exactly how that's going to work in that slide in the future.
Okay. And just to kind of add on to that particular question, and I think based on being no IAR for the orders like you had mentioned, then there would be no need for changing any deadlines related to ARC reconciling those errors that would come into play in IAR.
Yeah. Paige, skip forward to the release one if you could, what's included. So one of the key differences between orders and tickets is for orders, the airline is responsible for sending us all of the data. And if there is something that is incorrect, if we process it and it's incorrect, there is no, like in IAR today where something's an error and the agency is responsible for fixing it. That doesn't exist in this new world. If there's a problem with that transaction, we spit it out and the airline's got to fix it and resend it to us. So that means that the agent isn't going to be asked to pay something that isn't a correct transaction. The agent, the way that ARC is building this, the agent has the ability to say, hey, that doesn't match my records, and cancel a transaction as well. That's one of the changes that we've made from the industry standard to sort of be the new ARC standard in order to protect the agent's interests. So you get notified of a transaction. It doesn't match what you have in your records. Say the airline added an extra 0 on it, or they flipped 2 letters or something in the order number. It doesn't match your records. You have the ability to say, hey, I'm not going to pay that transaction. It's this sort of equivalent to agreeing to the checkmark box you guys have today in IAR. But you have the ability to cancel transactions that don't work that don't match your system. So obviously this is a brand new way of doing things. I am under no false impressions that this is the be-all end-all solution for agencies. I know there's probably a ton of people on this call today that are very overwhelmed with this information and going, no IR, what am I supposed to do? I think the key to remember is this is release 1. This is the first iteration of orders that ARC is doing. We have a multi-year effort in order to bring up a ton more functionality to market. This first iteration is a minimal viable product, but we have a strong vision for where we want to take the product in the future. So the first thing to know is we're going to be able to do new sales. Anytime there's an order change that causes an ad collect or a refund, whether it's full or partial, we'll be able to do. And we also have what I talked about, that payment cancellation functionality. We have real-time ingestion of all of those payment data and order details. Minimal validations. We are not checking things like, do prices, tax, and fees, commissions equal what we're asking you, what the agent's asked to pay. All of those things are agreed up front in the order sales process. So we're assuming that airlines are the source of truth. The airline, that puts the responsibility on the airline to correct it if they're wrong, rather than the agent having to correct it. We are going to be able to process and provide status updates in near real time. Like I said, transaction comes in, the agent will be notified within a matter of minutes. We're keeping the weekly settlement calendar that you guys are used to for this iteration. So any transaction that ARC receives between Monday and Sunday is going to be paid out on Friday the same way we do it today. We are building, instead of building reporting as a first go, we are just building APIs. So you'll have the ability to pull for any of the past data that if you maybe missed a notification or want to make sure that your system's in sync with ours, you'll be able to pull for that past data. And like I mentioned, it's all API based for this round. There's no flat files inbound or outbound. There are no GUIs or reporting suites like IAR for this round. I think the important thing to note is we are aiming for January 2026 for our first round. Obviously, this is a minimal functionality. It's going to take a very sophisticated and very forward-thinking agency to be able to utilize this. But think about it more in a proof of concept, and we will eventually get out more functionality along the way. Judy, are there more questions?
Sure. Will orders show up in the BOSS file?
No orders are going to show up in the BOSS file. The only way that you're going to be able to get any order data, they're not going to be in IAR, they're not going to be in BOSS, they're not going to be in DRS. The only way to get access to these would be to connect to our APIs for the time being. We do have a future vision. This is the first of many iterations of offering a reporting suite. And our goal for that is in 2027.
I'll do one more question here. How would fees be handled in an order format?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So every payment that comes in is called a clearance. And so every transaction is called a clearance in the order world. That's $750 that we were talking about. That would come in as an order clearance. And so every time we get one of those messages in, it's going to be priced as a transaction. And for our first iteration, we are keeping transaction pricing the same as today. So whatever you pay for ticket-based transactions is what you would pay for each of these clearances that come in.
Hey, Sarah, I think that maybe there was the fee might have been more like a service fee.
Oh, service fee.
I'm pretty sure.
So how would you do a service fee in the order world?
Yeah. Yep.
Interesting. If you're using ArcPay today and you have the ability to use ArcPay with NDC, you could still use ArcPay if that's how you're charging your service fees in an order-based world. There's nothing to stop an agent from using ArcPay with an order.
There was an additional comment regarding that, indicating that they are using MCO service fees.
Oh, golly. Maybe whoever that is, okay, we can take it offline because I'm struggling. So.
Yeah, I think that's probably ArcPay too. They just probably do it through the GDS.
Yeah.
But it would just need to be probably through the gateway.
Yes.
Did you have more of your presentation to go through?
I have one more slide. Yeah.
Sure. Let's go through that.
Yeah.
See where we're at with time.
This is just to tell you, like, I know that what we are releasing, like, we have a vision for many, many years of additional functionality. The first release is only going to be cash. We plan to take in credit card data as well. We plan to build out a pretty comprehensive reporting suite. So not IAR exactly, but something comparable to IAR. Ordered more ways to bring in this data from carriers. We plan to bring NDC tickets over eventually. We plan to do dynamic settlement periods. We have a multi-year roadmap to bring new functionality on board that will meet the needs of more airlines and more agencies. This is the first stab it's the first step along the way. We have built a lot of the backbone to be able to move really fast and provide flexibility in the future so we can bring on a lot of new exciting features in the future that will hopefully improve most people's lives. All right. We can ask more questions now, if there are any.
There are. There is a question in regards, does anything change with void windows related to orders?
Yeah, so there are no voids in that's the whole thing. The process of voiding changes. So today, if you sell something and you want to make a correction, you can go into IAR and void, or you can go into GDS and void. That fundamentally changes. In the future, if you want to do what is equivalent to a void today, you would go back to the airline via NDC messaging and void it via NDC, and then you would get a full refund or whatever the equivalent is with NDC. So you are not going to have the opportunity to void an ARC system, because you should be doing that with the carrier, and then the carrier would send us the update. So the process is kind of flip-flopped. But within ARC, let's say the carrier sends us something that you don't agree with, that doesn't match your system. You will have the opportunity to cancel that transaction and say, I'm not going to pay for that. Obviously, that opens you up to a debit memo if the airline disagrees with you, right? Like, there needs to be a reconciliation there. But if you think that the airline sent the wrong payment ask to ARC, you can step in and make sure that we don't settle that transaction until you can get it worked out with the airline.
And I think along that lines, the question is, will orders be able to be modified?
So yes. So if you buy something and your customer changes their mind, or something doesn't work anymore, or any number of different issues that happen, the way that orders are modified is you go back via NDC to the carrier and work and via NDC messaging and change the order up front with the carrier, right? Like, that's where the servicing happens there. And then the carrier would send us a new message to update the payments at ARC.
Apologies if you already answered something similar to this, but the question is, if the traveler purchases Wi-Fi on the plane, will the agency be alerted to the additional charge in the order?
So the answer to that is, it depends on the way that the airline rolls it out. Obviously, there's some privacy concerns there. And so I imagine that a lot of the carriers will have like the ability for a customer to opt in to sending it to an agency. But it is likely that, at least for corporate transactions, that you will have the opportunity to see some of the ancillary purchases that were done directly. Have view access. You probably won't be able to change them, but have view access to that. I think we are out of time. You guys had a ton of questions, so thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I'm going to turn it over to Judy again to wrap things up.
Go, Judy.
Thanks.
All right. Well, there was a question, Judy. I think I wanted to be sure that they were asking about: are you sending out the recording, or are we hosting it, or both, or how's that working?
Yep. Good question, Paige. Thank you. And thanks to the other Judy for asking all those questions. And Sarah, thanks to you for presenting all this great information. And to answer the question Paige just brought up, yes, to both. For anyone that registered for this session, anyone that attended this session, in our follow-up email in the next couple of days, we'll be sending out a link to the recording. If you missed that email, or at a future date you want to go back, or you can tell your teammates that this is a great webinar to go and take a look at, will be on arccorp.com. That's ARC and then corp.com under on-demand webinars. So look for that. Again, if you have any questions or you can't find it, please feel free to reach out to me, jhoward@arccorp.com, and I'll be happy to help you locate that recording. But again, I just want to give a big thank you to all of you that took the time out of your day to attend this session. I hope that it was helpful. There's going to be a little survey that goes out afterwards, so please fill that out so our team can still get a better idea of some of the questions you still have around this topic. Again, if your question didn't get answered, Sarah, Paige, and Judy will be taking a look at these and will be reaching out individually as needed. Again, and thank you to our presenters, of course, Paige, Sarah, and Judy. So thank you, everyone. Hopefully you'll join our next session. I believe we're having another webinar on orders coming up October 16th. But look for more information on that in the TAC and emails that will be sent out. So again, thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your day. Bye now.